Today what we're looking at are your patterns and blends. On top of that, we're looking at intertwining and repeats. Really what we're looking at is things that we can do using the object main menu. So if you click on that, you'll see a lot of different options in here. If you have multiple things selected, you can play around with these objects and see what you can do to create more unique looks for your designs. So the first thing we're going to start with is the intertwine option. So let's zoom in on that, please. Now with the intertwine option, what I'm looking to do is make these shapes not necessarily stand on top of each other. So you can look at this and see that the black shape here is the bottom shape because it's underneath everything else. You can look at the magenta shape and see that it's clearly on top of everything else. If I move it, it's on top. But how do I make it so that it doesn't look like that? How do I make it so that the yellow and the magenta look like they're kind of equal in importance? We're going to intertwine these options. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out what shapes I want to intertwine and where. I need to see where these shapes are overlapping. So you can see the blue goes over top of the black here and here. I'm going to select both of those shapes. So have them both selected. I'm going to go to Object, Intertwine, and I'm going to look for the option that says Make. Now it's going to give me this little lasso tool, and I'll zoom in so we can see it clearly. Once I have this lasso tool, if I hover over where the intersections are happening, it'll show this little dotted grid saying that this is an area you can intertwine. So if I click right here on the top, it'll intertwine those two shapes, putting the black on top of the blue. They look like they're going in and out of each other. So I can do the same thing on the yellow and magenta. I'm going to go to Object, I'm going to go to Intertwine, Make, and I'm going to hover over that first point and click one time. That'll bring that on top. Now there are 100 ways to do anything in this program, and the ways I explain may not be the fastest necessarily. There's always other ways to do it. Now that being said, you need as a designer to be a troubleshooter. You need to be able to figure out problems and figure out solutions for that problem. So for example, if I select the blue and the yellow now, notice it's grabbing the black and the magenta. If I go to Object, Intertwine again, it doesn't give me the option for Make. So how can I make this look the same as these other ones? What can I do to fix this issue? And there's a number of ways to do this. One way is to grab your Shape Builder tool. Now with my Shape Builder tool, I can hover over these different spots and it'll light up with this little grid. If I click where I want it to intersect, it'll make a completely separate shape out of that spot. Notice mine turns magenta. That's fine. When I click off, it'll deselect, and then I click back on that pink shape. It'll grab both. So I need to use my white arrow just to isolate that one shape. I'll hit I on my keyboard, and I'll click on that blue, and that'll turn that intersection area blue. So it looks the same, but it wasn't done the same way. There are 100 ways to troubleshoot these things, however you want to do. Now, underneath this, I want you to grab your Type tool, and I want you to type out your first initial, just your first initial. I want you to make it bigger. I want you to duplicate that shape and put in your second initial to create your third initial. I want you to color these in a different way, and I want you to overlap them and then create intersections how you want to be in this location. So play around with this, see what you come up with. When you've got it, move up to the repeats. Now on the repeats, I'm going to select this star right here. And what I want to do is I want to create a bunch of these stars in a grid system. So I'm going to go up to Object, I'm going to hit Repeat, and I'm going to see that there are options for repeat. The one I'm looking for today is Grid. So we're going to click on Grid, please. And you'll see it makes a grid of those stars. I can make them smaller, bigger, whatever kind of floats. I can stretch them out to get more stars, stretch them down to get more stars. There are these two little slider bars on the left and top of this, and that'll create a thicker density of these stars. So if I want them to get so close together that they don't even look like stars anymore, I can do that. So experiment with that and see what you come up with. Underneath, we're going to go to this board right here. Now what I want to do is I want to create an oval like that. Very simple little oval, nothing complicated to it. I'm going to grab a basic circle and I'm going to go underneath this and create that circle that looks like this. Now these two things together can be utilized to create what I'm looking for. I'm going to hit Shift M to get my shape builder tool, and I'm just going to click on this top shape one time. That's going to separate it from the rest. Once done, I can click on these other two and hit delete. I'm left with this one single shape. Now I'm going to turn this shape yellow so I can see it very clearly, and it's going to give me the look that I want. And I'm going to use a repeat on this to also create a different look. So if I go to Object again, Repeat, and this time I'm looking for radial, which means circle. Click on that. It gives me these little flower petals. I can cut off where I want these to be in this location. I can increase the amount of petals that I want or how few I want right here. So create a look that looks nice for your flowers. When you've got it, create a little black circle that's going to go in the middle. We're going to get a nice little sunflower here. Now that we have this little flower set up, I'm going to shrink this down. I'm going to put it in the corner. Repeats can be done on anything and everything. So I have multiple shapes going on here in this single selection, but I can repeat these too. So go to Object, choose Repeat again, and this time pick Grid again. And you'll see you can repeat those flowers how you want. So you can create a big gridded system of hundreds of these flowers if you want. Down here at the bottom piece, I want you to experiment. So I want you to make a shape or a group of shapes really, and I want you to repeat those in some way, shape, or form to create some kind of texture or pattern back here in the back. Once you have that, we're going to move up to the top right to blends. Now blending means fading one color into another. Very similar to gradients, except we get to define how many stops it has along the way. It'll also repeat the shape as we do this. So I want you to select the black shape, hold Shift, select the red shape over here. And we're going to go up to again to Object. We're going to choose Blend this time. And we can choose Make right off the bat, and it'll make a nice blending of that shape from one to the next. Kind of a gradient, but it's actually repeating this circle over and over again. Let's click on the next black shape and go to the green. We're going to go to Object, again to Blend, but this time go to Blend Options. And look at some of the different options that we have here. So we can space this out on Smooth Color, which it already did, or we can specify how many steps we want to take. So if I only want 8 circles between these two locations, I can have that. So once I set those parameters, I'll go back to Object, back to Blend, and this time hit Make again, and that will fade in those 8 little circles in between. And notice the color is changing as it goes. Same is true for the bottom step. I want you to go to Object, Blend, go to Blend Options, and this time choose 16 and hit OK on that. Again, nothing happens when you do that. You're setting the parameters for it. Go back to Object, Blend, and choose Make, and it'll make that little stepping. So however many steps you have equals out to how many circles you're going to have in this setup. So if I only do 8, I get 8 circles. If I do 16, I get 16 circles. If I fade by color, I get as many circles as I need to create a nice smooth curve. So let's look at a way that we can create a unique version of these blends, kind of do something different with them. I'm going to get my ellipse tool, L is the shortcut, and I'm going to click in the middle holding Shift and Alt to create a circle out of the middle of this shape. Now once there, I'm going to grab my knife tool. So you'll need to find your scissor tool, C, and underneath that is your knife tool. And I'm going to click on the far right hand side of this and kind of create this little shape going up and into it. That's going to cut the shape in half. I can pull the top half away from the bottom half. So that's what I'm looking for. Create a circle that looks like this for me. That's our first step. Then over on the right, I want you to type your name first. And then I want you to duplicate that first name down and type your last. Now, if you have a particularly long name, it might be easier just to pick any 2 words that you want to here. I wouldn't want anything that's like 8 or more characters if possible. So try to keep it kind of simple to the point. Now I'm going to pick the font that I want for these. The font I'm going to choose is Impact. If you don't have Impact, find a font that's big, bold, and kind of a thick font. Once there, I'm going to select both of these names and I'm going to go to Type and I'm going to choose Create Outlines. I need to move these from text to shapes real quick. There we go. And you'll know you did it right if you hit A. You'll see anchor points around this. Now, once you have this, I am going to select my top shape here of the circle and my bottom. I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. So that makes sure it's on top. Now, what we're going to do with this is we're going to create kind of a unique look to the overall feel. We're going to put this name into this top shape, this name into this top shape. So I'm going to select my first name, hold Shift, and click on this circle right here. And I'm going to go to Object, I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to look for Envelope Distort. And I'm going to choose the option that says Make with Top Object. And when I do, you see it puts my name nice and clear into that location. I'll click on that bottom shape, hold Shift on my last name, go to Object, Envelope Distort, and I'm going to go again to Make with Top Object. And that puts my name in that location, giving me a nice, neat look. Now, what can we do with this? So first off, we can alter how this looks as a whole. So I'm going to grab both of these shapes. I'm going to hold Option or Alt, dragging it over to the right for the time being. I'm just going to leave that over there. Now I want to alter the colors of this text. And to do that, I have to get into it. I can't just grab it like normal and change the color. I can't come over here to my color picker and change the color here. It won't work. If I double click on my name here, it'll allow me to select my name and I can choose my color inside of this isolation mode. So I'm going to change that to an orange. I'm going to go to my last name, double click, select the name there, and change that to a similar or different color. You can go completely different if you want. Now, when I get out of my isolation mode, I'll hit Escape to do that, or that little gray arrow. I can now see my name. So I'm going to grab my black shapes, both of them. I'm going to hold Alt or Option and drag them over to the left so that they match up with the first name. I'm going to shrink these down dramatically, grabbing the top and holding Shift and Option to shrink them down. Then I'm going to send them to the back. Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And that'll put it behind the name. Now I need to select both of the first names. So I'm going to try to grab this black area of my first name and this orange one up here. Now once I have these both selected, I'm going to go to Object, I'm going to go to Blend, and I'm going to go to Blend Options. Here I'm going to choose Specified Steps, and I'm going to choose 50 on this to give myself a nice fade from one color to the next. When I hit OK, nothing's going to change. I have to go to Object, I have to go to Blend again, and then Make again. And now you'll see that nice blend from the black to that orange. Good. I'll do the same thing on the last name. I'll select both shapes. It can be a little bit of a fight to select these shapes. If you need to lasso them, that might be the best way to do it. Object, Blend, and I already have the blend option set, so I can just hit Make on this one. Good. So it gives me this nice look, but it's hard to read, right? So this one right here, I'm going to put this directly on top of the previous shape. You see that already makes it much easier to read. But I want to change the color of this one to be white. So I'm going to go to white on this. And I'm going to do the same thing on the last name down here, changing this to white as well. And if you need to shrink these down a little bit to create a little better readability, you certainly can. Just kind of play with it so that you get this nice look and you're able to see your name very clearly. If you want to experiment with the gradients, you can do that as well. Double click on it. Pick a gradient to go in this location. You can alter your gradient just like anything else. So if I want to fade from one to the next or top to bottom, notice the name is fairly small, so it might be a little difficult to grab, but you can create a very unique look to how you want this to be. So underneath this, I want you to experiment, and I want you to create your own version of this. I don't want you to use your name. I don't want you to use a circle even. I want you to use a couple of different shapes, put text into it, find a way to blend to create a unique look to you. Good. Now we're going to go up to patterns. And this little star here is a basic shape. It's just a star shape with a dashed line that is in a gradient. Complicated looking, not terrible. So on this one, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to go to the Effect menu. And under the Effect menu, we're going to look for Distort and Transform. Then we're going to go again to the one that says Transform. So we're looking for Transform basically. Now this is going to give you the Transform Effect panel. Make sure you have Preview down here at the bottom selected. If you do, you can kind of alter this and you'll see things change as you do. Now before I do anything here, be very careful with this. This is one of those things that likes to crash your computer, and I don't want to do that, so be very careful. So on scale, I want to change this to 95% so that this gets smaller as it goes. On the move option, I'm going to leave that blank, but underneath copies, I'm going to change this to 10. This is going to create 10 copies, and each copy is going to get 95% smaller than the last. When I let go, you see it does that. It's kind of messy looking, hard to tell, but it is 10 copies there. The option for angle right here, if I change the angle to 10%, that means every copy down the way changes 10% of its angle. So you see it starts to rotate. If I do it much less, a small like 2%, you'll be able to see it a little better how it's rotating. Now, every time you change this angle, you're going to get a different look for how this would be. So feel free to experiment with that and come up with a unique look. When you're done, hit OK. Let's move down. Now down in this box, I want you to create a very basic circle. It's going to come in with the last default. Just change that back to your default colors. You can choose black if you'd like for the time being. What we're going to do with this is we're going to create a gradient out of this. So I'm going to click on my gradient fill, and I'm going to create about 4 or 5 different colors. I want my colors to be very different, so make sure you're altering your colors to be something unique along the way. To play around with it, come up with different colors to kind of create a different look. Now, once I have my colors, I want to create a radial gradient out of it so that I can see it coming from the center. We're going to do something different with this to make this look much more unique. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Effect, Distort, and Transform. And this time I'm going to look for Free Distort. Now I can alter how this shape looks right here. So I can alter it out to look a little bit different. Do so. Hit OK when done. I want to go to Effect again, Distort and Transform. I want to go to Pucker and Bloat. Pucker and Bloat makes things look a little larger or a little smaller. Pick whichever floats your boat. Hit OK. I'm going to go to Effect, Distort and Transform again. I'm going to go to Roughen. And this is going to roughen up your shape. It's going to make it look very different and create as many details or as few as you want. I really don't care as long as it looks different. That's the goal here. You can make it smooth or have these sharp corners. It's your design. You do you. Once I have that, I'm going to shrink this shape down dramatically. I'm going to make it very small. And you'll see it kind of changes as it gets smaller. That's okay. So I have just got a pinprick of a shape. It's a micro shape here. With that shape selected, I'm going to go to Effect, Distort and Transform, to transform again. Once here, I'm going to change the scale to 101. So just going up a little bit. I'm not going to move it. You could if you wanted to. I'm going to change the angle to anything, really. And I'm going to bump the copies up to 50. Now be very careful here because this could turn into a very large shape and it could really slow down your computer. When I make it to 50, I get my shape, it gets a little bit bigger. I'm going to hit OK on this, and I made my shape a little too small, so I'm going to make my shape a little bit bigger. And as I make it bigger, I can see that pattern kind of coming into it. It's creating this unique look to this shape. I'll go to Effect again, Distort and Transform, go to Transform Options again. I can apply a new effect. And again, I can kind of play around with that angle to see what I come up with. I can add additional copies to see what that comes up with. I can change it to 102 or 104 to see the different looks that I get. Try moving it. You'll see it moves in a different direction as you create it. There are different ways to play with this. It's entirely up to you what this shape looks like. So once you've created your own unique shape, go down a little bit. And on this box, what I want you to do is type your name, go to Type, Create Outlines, and I want you to do a similar thing to this. Try doing your move, try doing your scale, try doing your different angles to see what you come up with. You'll come up with all kinds of neat stuff using this. So what did we do today? We looked at how we can use the object main menu to create different looks for different objects depending on what we want to do. We looked at how to intertwine different objects together, putting things so that there's not one thing on top, they are both on top. We looked at repeating patterns, how we can use these repeating patterns to create repetition in our designs. We looked at our blends, how we can blend multiple shapes together. And in that, we looked at our envelope distort, how we can put shapes into other shapes. Then we went and looked at patterns using our effect, distort, and transform options, how we can transform different shapes to create different looks. These are all significant tools that can be used to create unique designs for anything that you might be working with. And we're barely scratching the surface of what can be done with all of these shapes. So you're going to need to experiment with these different effects to create the looks that you want to create for your designs. Experimentation is key. So that's your daily dose of design. If you found this at all helpful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. That helps me out and that helps you keep building your digital toolbox. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.